Fox, SG Annan, Q News Patriot. We're streaming in Canada today. Dale Richardson from the Karras Report. We have Larry Courtcamp from OBVM Network, and my good friend, Dan Schmiglio, Voice of the People, who gets the most people on. We're here at precinctprojectusa.org. If everybody goes to precinctprojectusa.org and signs up, you'll hear a lot of information today. Our main goal today is to try to get 200,000 new precinct committee men and committee women. We're following up with our good friend who's on today, Dan Schultz from Precinct Strategy. You can also go to Precinct Strategy, www.precinctstrategy.com. Dan has all the information on. Many people who we spoke to thank Dan for getting us involved. And today, we're doing a little bit different things today because we're going to bring on a number of speakers telling you what's going on in their different cities. And then we're going to do some training things. So we have a lot of information that we get to you. And what is a committee man and committee women, and why do we need to get some more committee men and committee women? Well, imagine if 200,000 people call our senators to try to help us with the SAVE Act today. Many of you were on our stream yesterday for election integrity, over 6 million people, and we're hoping to have more than 6 million today. Why is that important? So if you have 200,000 committee men and committee women, which we have now, if we had 400,000, that's 200,000 more people. Also, the RNC has asked me to bring this most important thing up. Please go to protectthevote.com to become a poll watcher and poll worker. During the last election, we had 200,000 poll watchers and poll workers against 100,000 on the last election. So that's one of the things that a committee man and committee women does. You attend meetings, you vote, you get candidates elected. That's the most important thing that we can do. We have midterms coming up. The Republicans are now asleep. Democrats are surging in many places. But the most important thing that really brought us to attention was that the Democrats have stolen precinct strategy. I have in my possession a video for 1 hour and 15 minutes that somebody sent me that the Democrats have come out with precinct strategy. So if they're stealing our precinct strategy, we certainly should get with it and get people involved. We're going to tell you some of the ways to get people involved today, but the most important way is thinking about this. If we have 200,000 committee women and committee men, and each person brought one person in, how hard is that? You know, Dan Schultz, myself, Steve Bannon have been on for many years talking about that. Dan and Steve are on 14 years. I came up with them about 5 years ago, and we've been asking people to get involved. He just sent me some information in Texas alone, which should be tremendous. We only have about 44% of our seats filled. I was on the phone over the weekend, and I want to thank Jenny Story, who helped me get together with many of the chairs in Texas. I spent the entire weekend calling chairs in Texas and asking them why we have a lot of vacancies as chairs. And they were telling me that there's a lot of older people who are retiring. We have a lot of older people that get sick. So we need young people to get on. We need the YRs to get involved. Now, YRs, just in Manhattan alone, I've been trying to reach out to them for many years. They have 1,000 people in New York. And, you know, we have Project Civic on that's coming on later. They try to get them involved. And it seems to be a little difficult. So let's go over as a committee man and committee women. You attend meetings, you vote, you get candidates elected, you sign up voters, you canvass neighborhoods, you poll watch, you poll workers. We are going to show you manuals today, or give you manuals if you want for people to get involved. I was lucky enough to get our friends over in Tampa to send us one of the best manuals that I've ever seen. And that's so important because when a committee man and committee woman come on, many of the different precincts do not train the people. So, or prior to them coming in, telling them what they have to do. So this is very important. So as we go on today, and if you need to get a hold of us, I think one of the things that we want to let everybody know is if you need to email us, we will answer questions. There's an email up there, but if you want to email me at sstern1054@gmail.com, we always get back together with you. And this program is being sponsored by theflagshirt.com. We have over 50 podcasters streaming us today, and we have many networks. So we're going to move on to our first guest, Aaron Kutzbauer from Arizona, LD25. Aaron, you want to come down and unmute yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity. So as Steve highlighted, the most important thing that a precinct committeeman can do is register other voters. We need to register voters and we need to attract and recruit other PCs. For instance, in my precinct within LD 25, there's 16 open slots. Over the course of the last 3 years, there's only been 2 active PCs. So as I go door to door to get my signatures to appear on the primary ballot, and my deadline is fastly approaching, March 23rd. Every state is different. My primary is in July. It's been moved up 2 weeks by the governor and by the state legislature from August to July. I need to get signatures to appear on the ballot. As I do that, as I touch the 1,900 doors in my precinct, I'm actually actively recruiting for new PCs, or in lots of instances, attracting PCs that formerly were active but have been disillusioned by the lack of action within the legislature, both federal and state, unfortunately, to what it is. So I've found that this is an enthusiasm election. That's what midterms are. Typically, about 20% of the eligible voters participate in a midterm. So that means 11% of eligible voters will decide the outcome in the midterms. And that's who we will see who goes on the general election in November. So just think about that. 1 out of every 9 people that are eligible to vote will decide who gets to be on the ballot this November. So it's very crucial that we touch every door, that we shake every hand. One of the things I recommend is I talk to people in the grocery store. I wear Trump gear 24/7. I've always got my button on. I've always got my badge on. And when I go to the grocery store, because most of those people will be in my legislative and congressional district, I talk to people when they come up and say, nice button, nice pin, how do I get involved? That's when I open up the conversation. So I'm going to end a little early. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a long journey for me. It took me 37 months to become a PC because we're fighting the establishment Republicans here. But we've got what it takes to save this republic. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
So you have a couple more minutes or you have to go?
No, I don't have to go. I'll lend
All
my
right, so
TM
give us a
time
little
back to the
background.
group.
Yeah, give us a, you have about 6 more minutes of your time, so you got to cover the time. So give us a little
Oh, okay.
background. Yeah, you're on for another, I would
Sure.
say.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was just going to give my time back to the group if they had other commitments. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So I woke up the first day of War Room, which was the 22nd of October 2019, when Admiral Bannon started the War Room impeachment. So he woke me up fully. I used to be a country club Republican. I would send a few $1,000s to the GOP and just assume that everything was going to be right. Unfortunately, at that point, my kids were being taught Marxism in school, and I was losing the culture war, not only in this republic, but within my household. So it really woke me up. And the year of COVID did as well when I saw what my sophomore daughter was learning in school. So I applied to be a PC in May of 2020. And unfortunately, I ran into the buzzsaw of the establishment class Republicans. It took me 37 months to become a PC in Arizona, which everybody would say is a ruby red state, right? Just like Texas. How could people vote for Democrats there? So a lot of the fighting is within the party. So we're trying to change the culture. We're in a war for this republic. It's cultural, it's economic, it's religious, it's political, and most of all, it's spiritual. That's why they killed our friend Charlie Kirk, my friend Charlie Kirk. I worked with him the last 4 years. So I would just encourage everybody to touch as many doors as you can, greet as many people out in public, and attract them to become PCs, because PCs are the people that register voters and get voters active, both at the state, local, at all of the above, state, local, and federal avenues.
So
Thank you.
You're up there with Turning Point. Give us a little background on why we can't get more of the younger people involved in Maricopa County, where Turning Point is right there.
I'm not sure what the dynamic is there, Steve. I'm going to reach out to some people here the next week and see if I can lean on people. I worked Charlie Kirk's Celebration of Life. So I've got lots of contacts there. I was on Trump Force 47. I was very active back in 2022 on Carrie Lake's campaign, going to all the events, talking her up, trying to get enough people to, as President Trump said, swamp the vote. We needed to outperform the cheat, because we know that there's still issues with voter registrations. I think there's lots of dirty rolls, as highlighted by Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch for the last decades. So we have our work cut out for us, but with the energy that we have behind President Trump and behind MAHA and MAGA and American Citizens First, we can do it. Thank you.
In Maricopa County, Michelle Swinick and myself, Michelle actually worked on finding out the guilty people in the election where it was stolen for Kerry Lake and many, many others. What do you see different now that's happening in Maricopa that will help us in this next election?
It's going to come down to the grassroots, actually, Steve. It's going to be based on people like me, other people in the community that are going to do the work, because we've got kind of a malaise now. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party that think just because President Trump is the head of the executive branch that we've got clear sailing. And we've seen from the judiciary and the legislative branch that we're still fighting almost every single federal employee. It really seems like of the 539 selected or elected in November of 2024, only President Trump is on our side. So it's a daunting task, but we can do it. Very positive.
Do you have any kind of percentage of how many people we have in Arizona that are committee men and committee women, what the percentage is, what it is in Maricopa County? Because Maricopa County is the biggest. And if we have, like when Dan was there, he moved to Wisconsin, we had only, I believe he said, about 46% of people that were, committee men and committee women.
It's tracking at that same level. I've looked specifically at my LD, and it's under 40%. And again, for instance, in my particular precinct, it's 2 spots out of 16 that are active. So that's 1/8, that's 12%. Now there's actually 3 more registered precinct committeemen in my precinct, but they haven't been to a meeting in over a year. So it really looks like it's 5 out of 16, but it's not. It's not anywhere near that range. Thank you.
So what kind of ideas do you have? Are you still there? Or did you leave?
Yes, I'm still here. Yeah.
What kind of ideas do you have to get more people in Maricopa County? Because this particular Zoom meeting is to try to get people to come into the Republican Party, and we're going to let people know how to do it in different states. But in your state, which is one of the most important states, we've lost a lot of elections there because of them stealing the election. But if we get more people to vote and come out, and of course, President Trump is working on an executive order if the SAVE Act doesn't pass, and we want to make sure that everybody that's listening here out there calls your senators. If we get the SAVE Act passed, we're going to win a lot of elections in Arizona because we're going to get rid of the illegal aliens that I know are there. And what do you see as far as illegal aliens there in Arizona?
Well, this goes back to, in my humble opinion, to the 1993 Motor Voter Act. So when that was passed and it was enacted January 1st of 1995, every person that applies for social services, every person that goes to the DMV is now registered to vote. I worked the polls in 2024. I did not see a mass import of people, and I'll stereotype people that looked illegal walking in and voting. But I believe what happens is secretaries of state or people the election board now have access to dirty voter rolls and can process ballots. We know Runbeck in Arizona was a huge problem. I believe they distributed ballots across the country. If you look back, they purchased 11 ballot counting machines to add to the 5 that they had in December of 2019. So somehow Kevin Runbeck was ahead of the COVID virus by about 90 days. I'm not sure how he was so prescient. But that aside, we can do it. We can swamp the vote like we did in 2024 at the presidential level. It took them over 50 days to count the votes to come to the conclusion that Gallego got over 80,000 votes more than Kerry Lake, more than Kamala Harris did, more than President Trump did. So we know that the fraud is in there, but we just have to knock doors, touch hands, and encourage people to join our cause. And that's what I'm focused on. Grocery stores, the public library, all of our precinct committee meetings in our neighborhoods, door to door, put the work in, and the results will follow. Thank you.
So people want to get a hold of you in the last 10 seconds. How do they get a hold of you to join?
Yeah, feel free to text me, call 623-910-3007. My email address is psu_sigep@cox.net. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on. Our next guest is John Turncliffe, the chair of Marin County, California, one of the bluest states that we know about. John, give us some good information.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. I think Aaron and I, even though we haven't met, I feel like kindred brothers I've described myself as a recovering country club Republican, and I too was listening from Bannon from day one back in impeachment and followed it through. And that's where I first heard of Dan Schultz, was listening to Bannon. And after the 2020 election, I was extremely frustrated as far as what can I do. And we're in a county, Marin County. You can see that my background, I'm on the side of Marin, and that's San Francisco on the other side. So we're right next to the belly of the beast. And we're a 12% Republican to a 60% Democrat registration. So we're deep in blue territory. So it was hard to find anybody locally to just run into to figure it out. And when Dan was on with Bannon, they started talking about Dan's precinct strategy. And I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. And it still went on for a few months. And finally, it's like, damn it, I got to do something. There must be a Marin GOP here. I lived here for 25 years as a voting Republican and had not heard of them once. So I called in and they said, well, it's COVID lockdown. We're having Zoom meetings. So we did that for a few months, and they had less than 10 people on those Zoom calls. And they were pretty tame, but then it came back to in person. And as Bannon and Dan Schultz said, don't go in hot, go in quiet, take a temperature. And so I did. It's like, okay, I gotta, lay low here for a little bit and figure out what's going on. And as soon as I started raising my head out and asking a few questions, they determined it was time for me to go. And so on the election night, I said, I'll just run for treasurer. And they found a way to kick me out. So they kicked me out 3 years ago on election night before they even started the meeting. So it was totally out of line. But no matter, because there was nobody to make a decision besides them. So I was out and people were like, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I got to find something. So I went to a GOP convention. Somebody got me a delegate badge. And I went to my first GOP convention in Sacramento, our capital. And I was just in the lobby and what's going on. I'm listening to conversations. And they weren't exactly this, but they were kind of like, where's the next convention going to be? When's it going to be? What's going to be on the dinner menu? Who's the entertainment? It's like, how do these people expect to win anything when they're talking about stuff that's not about winning something? And then I think, well, they really don't. There's not been a Republican in state office in California for over 20 years. So that shows you the strength of the Republican Party in California. Now, there's some strong areas, but in general, that's the status. So as I was floundering around, I was like, okay, what can I do? And somebody said, well, have you heard of the Republican Assembly? And I said, no, what is it? Well, it's a organization similar to GOP, but it's not the party. Everything else is very, so we does endorsements, does recruiting, does poll watching, election integrity, all the different things, but it's not the party. And raise money. So somebody said, why don't you start it? And I said, well, let's try. So we got a handful. It took us 15 people to get started. And the first meeting, I'm not kidding you, it was this bad. I took in a sling and shot to give to everybody that showed up at that first meeting. Just almost a David and Goliath type situation we're up against. And if you want to get in, we want you, but it's not going to be, all fun and games. So we got it going. And in the first year, we were having bigger events because the way we wanted to grow it was through events. And we started off just coffee get-togethers, and then maybe a picnic, and then a bigger thing. And at the end, we had a big Christmas party that was very successful. And we like double or triple the local GOP for the Christmas party. Everybody's going, that's a pretty big accomplishment around here. And then with that, we were on the ballot in Trump's primary in 2024, we're on his ballot in the county. We were elected. There were 21 seats. We took our CRA group had grown big enough that we said, we're all running. And so we signed up for all 21 seats. So they could not run unopposed, the other side. And we took 16 of those 21 seats. The other 5 resigned the next week or month. And we took over all 5 executive committee seats. So for us, it was a textbook execution of the precinct strategy as far as getting people together, building up momentum. It took us a year, but then we took over the GOP. Fortunately, the election was timed right, so it helped. If it was another year out, we might still be trying to get in. But that was the way we got people together. And it was interesting because they kicked me out on election night 2 years before. I was out. We started CRA. I came back the first night. I was elected chairman. So that kind of shows the difference between the old school thinking and say the new wave of people coming in. I'll say since Trump and a lot of people that follow Bannon were people that joined us along the way with either the Republican Assembly or GOP. And the Republican Assembly is an idea that can go in any state. So they're pretty much across the southern, not the southern states, but say cut the country in half and below. There are some above, but it could be in any state. So if you're in a state or in an area where getting on the GOP, which I'll get into in a second, might not be so easy, the Republican Assembly can be. And you can participate and you can learn and almost use it as a feeder for GOP committees, is what we're seeing here. And it's been working out well, but it's a continual battle. It's a continual battle. Let's see here, sorry. And so when we start to talk about, when Steve had the idea to get different people in states kind of being a point person, if somebody on some of these calls, like, what do I do? Who do I talk to? I volunteered for that. And so for people that are listening, I would suggest one thing I learned in my first few weeks of doing that position is a lot of people signed up, but they don't really, I don't know if they don't really mean it or not, but out of the 7 or so that I got, only one returned the call or the email, and that one's actually very good. So that's worth it for me. But if you're going to sign up, be prepared to, get some things that are to take action. It's not going to be, read this piece of information. It's going to be, do you want to go knock on a door? Do you want to go hand out flyers? Do you want to do this? You want to do that? So it's going to be taking action. And so the way I handled it in California, I'm in Northern California. The voter or the person checking in was from Southern California. So she told me what she wanted to do, what she'd like to do. And I said, okay, let me get some ideas. So I got my contacts with GOP in the area, with the Republican Assembly in the area. And between those two, they gave me the women's groups in the area. And now I could get, a list of options and go back and talk to this potential women who wanted to join in to say, okay, low level, you can go in, just kind of hear what's going on with the Women's Federated Group. They do good things, but it's not the party. You can look at Republican Assembly, which is more of like a feeder, potentially a feeder group to GOP, if your GOP is full, because your GOP is full, it's going to take time. And sometimes even if it's not full, it'll take time because they want to protect their territory, those that are in it. So that's our story out here. It's still a big battle, but we're going the right direction and very excited about it.
How do people reach you? Give them the correct spelling name. A lot of people can't see it because our banners are covering it.
Okay, so email me chair@maringop.org, MARIN, maringop.org, chair@maringop, or text at 415-505-4277.
So California has a big problem in mail-in ballots. And, we saw in Central California, in Orange, where 3 people won the election on election day. And then a week later, ballots came in. 2 weeks later, ballots came in. 3 weeks came in. How are the Republicans going to try to stop that from happening?
That's interesting because we had a little debate with the state party about that. In fact, we've been very involved with Mark Cook, Harry Hurry, Doug Frank. We've all had to come through and work with us and train us. So we're taking let's get to the voter rolls and that problem where the GOP is not as much. In fact, one of our election integrity for our local Marin GOP went to the state party meeting and he got kicked out because he was saying, no, you have to go same day, paper ballot, hand count, that routine, and the state wasn't going for it. And they kicked him out of the meeting at the convention. So I don't know if the state party is, I know they're putting effort in, but I don't know if they're looking on what I think, or what we think is the right part, which is the voter rolls. So we're working on it locally. I can't say from a state perspective, what the status is there, unfortunately.
Thanks very much. So chat is coming in. A lot of people are asking, how do they get a hold of the person that's speaking, or how do they get a hold of anybody in their state? So if you go to precinctprojectusa.org, there is a list, and here's the list of one person in every state. That's how we're starting. In some states, we've got two. California, we've got Tina Celine, who's one of my big contacts. We'll get somebody in San Diego so that people know how to get together with them. California is a big state, and therefore it's difficult to get everybody involved in every area. So we'll have more people in. So again, if you go to precinctprojectusa.org, look it up, sign in, and you'll be able to get a lot of information. You'll be getting newsletters once a month. Velma has been helping us out of DC, and it's very important. We're not trying to do anything with precinct strategy. We still want you to go there, look up information, and ours is more of contacting you and bringing you information on a daily basis. Our next guest is Jonathan Broadbent, who's worked with Dan Schultz for 3 years on X. He's out of Ohio. Fantastic guy. He's got a radio show. Come on down, Jonathan.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
You can.
Good. Jonathan Broadbent here in Ohio. I'm another success story like John Turnacliffe. I'm one of those people that during COVID, I saw what was happening in schools and started fighting for K through 12 and realized quickly that school districts weren't paying attention to us. So I turned to politicians, figuring that our elected politicians would do something about what was happening in schools, and got fed up enough that a group of us started meeting in a local church basement. And we started talking about what's wrong, what the issues are, what we wanted to fix. For me, the catalyst was education, and I've continued to fight on that. You may see me in some documentaries like the Newsmax, Transforming America, etc. So my hot button has been education, but that kind of led me in to precinct strategy. And I'm going to outline where I see that fitting in your conversations, working on recruiting other people, because everyone has their hot button. Everyone has that issue that really, it lights the fire under their butt. It's going to be First Amendment or Second Amendment. It's going to be something. And if you can catch people where they are and get them into it, then you end up with people, hopefully, a lot of people like John Turnacliffe and like me. So the long story made short, I ended up with the fire lit under my butt because I saw that our politicians weren't doing anything. They were doing diddly squat. We saw in COVID that our kids were being harassed and manipulated, and we saw this critical race theory creeping in and pornographic material, and what our politicians were twiddling their thumbs. So as I said, there's a big group of us started meeting in a local church basement, and we would bring in potluck, and there was my local version of Dan Schultz. Dan Schultz, if you don't know him, find him on social media and follow him, because Dan Schultz is the firebrand for precinct strategy. And I'm fortunate to have been introduced to Steve Stern, who introduced me to Dan Schultz, and that really accelerated my learning curve super fast. It's like an information download. But out of that group of people that started meeting, two things formed that are critical. One is a local patriot club that does all the things we wish our GOP would do, but doesn't. Right now, my wife is actually serving as president, which helps. But it's a big group with a big following, and they're very active. But 22 of us decided to run for local central committee. At the time, I'll admit, I didn't have a clear sense of what that meant and the power of that position. But it's been said, and I've repeated this probably a million times since then, precinct committeeman is perhaps the most important position in all of government that no one has ever heard of. Think about that for a moment. Take that expression with you, because it's true. There is so much that can, should be, and will be done when we, the people, capture and take over that voice of government. So long story made short, there were 22 of us that ran, 18 of us won. I stepped into my local GOP Central Committee. Think of it like the board of directors. If you're not familiar with the idea, think of it like your local board of directors. They're the ones that decide how your Republican Party runs, what they do, when they meet. They decide everything. It's the board of governance for your GOP. Now you're probably starting to get a sense for why it remains hidden. The GOP don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to know that this is an avenue for we, the people, to have voice and vote and power. So they stay quiet about it. They keep it this power vacuum. There are a lot of bad actors in there. In my local GOP, although I'd moved into a very conservative, very red Republican county, was very poorly run. A lot was hidden. There were infrequent meetings. Nothing was public. It was a frustrating nightmare. But we flipped it, and we are on to great things here locally and accomplishing things. We now have open meetings. We have voting that people can see. We have tracking. We have all kinds of reports. And I'm proud to say that we now actually are meeting in a way that allows us to pass resolutions. If you know what that means, then you know the power that we are reclaiming here on the local level. I've actually presented 3. The third is still in consideration. But those resolutions, those are action. Those are the way that we, the people, make decisions about what we want out of government, instead of waiting to see what our GOP does or what our state capital does. I know I'm probably running out of time, but just I will interject that.
Got plenty of time. You got plenty of time.
Oh, plenty of time. Good. I saw you come back. I was like, Steve's there. I may be running out. I'm getting the hook. So similar to John, my election is coming up in my county in Ohio. Ohio has 88 counties. Some are elected every 2 years and some are every 4 years. The thing to know, and one of the prime reasons for precinctstrategy.com, that's Dan Schultz's website, is to get a sense for what's happening in states and then how the system works near you. So you might find slightly different terminology or a different election cycle or different process to fill those seats. In my county, they're every 4 years. Mine is coming up on May 5th. And between now and then, I have found out that the bad guys have found somebody to run against me. I think that's what's happened here. I have an opponent. And you believe this or not, I actually, if you're watching video, I'll hold up a postcard. A postcard was mailed making me look ugly in this volunteer position. Here's the back, claiming that I'm a liberal. This tells you the lengths to which bad actors will go. I'm actually doing research into the supposed nonprofit that has sent out this postcard. This is a volunteer position, and somebody put big money into trying to silence my voice. What that tells me is that is a huge wind in my sails. It tells me I'm on the right path. I'm over the target and taking flack, as the saying goes. Somebody's spending money, and I'm not the only one. There are other people in the county who are actually speaking up, acting, asking questions, pushing back, and making things happen in the county. Here's the way to look at it. You don't have a voice. You don't have a vote until you become active in the Republican Party. And I mean no disrespect to the clubs and groups and organizations and the people who write letters and make phone calls and send emails. Keep doing that. It's good. It's helpful. But there is nothing more powerful than being a precinct committeeman. You can do things that lead to nitwits and knuckleheads sending out postcards that try to silence you. Well, you know that you're doing the right things and you're having an impact when you get to that level for a gosh darn ridiculous volunteer position. So here's the deal. In my final moments here, I'm going to leave some really important breadcrumbs. If you're one of those people out there that's wondering why we're not getting response from the Republican Party and our elected officials, it's because they don't fear us. They don't fear us because we don't control the party. We don't have voice and a vote. And if you're one of those people out there talking about primarying somebody, you know how you primary somebody? You control endorsements. How do you control endorsements? Precinct strategy. You get precinct strategy, you get the right number of people, you get local people in who are America First, who are Trump supporters. You can flip your county, you can flip the state, we can flip all the states, and I will tell you that we will primary the bad guys and get rid of these rhinos. Here's a side note. If you're in Ohio or know people in Ohio, point them to me. I run Ohio Rhino Hunters, and I am also one of the catalysts to help Ohio flip. We have Ohio Precinct Strategy.org. That's a standalone kind of an offshoot or similar to what Dan does on the national level. Find us, step in and get involved. If you're not the person to throw your hat in the ring and run for precinct committeeman, at least learn about the importance of the role and figure out who is there. And if it's an empty seat, let's work together to fill it. We'll find the right people. My group, we will train them up, get them proficient, armed with information, with things like Steve Stern is holding up there from, I think he said it was Broward County. There's all kinds of training information, all kinds of YouTube videos. You name it, you're not going to be going in blind. I think that used to happen, but now you have groups like this one. You have an army of people willing, ready, and happy to train you and educate you. And chief among them in my book is Dan Schultz. Go to the website and start there. Precinctstrategy.com. And again, in Ohio, it's ohioprecinctstrategy.org.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. Tell us a little bit about your radio show. I know when people come on, and the reason said I was leaving, yes, you see these papers, we're getting chat, but we have a number of studios here, so I got to go to the other studio where we have 7 computers running and streaming this on StreamYard. So we got Zoom going to StreamYard. StreamYard goes out to all these different podcasters, and we're getting chats on different ones. And some of the chats that they're asking are, and some of the things he said is that most of the chats coming in saying we're trying to get rid of the establishment and we're trying to get rid of the rhinos. So the Republicans are fighting each other, and that's a big problem in some of those things. What are they telling you on your radio show?
Well, I don't think we're fighting each other. I think that we've had opportunists for decades. And actually, during the Biden administration, the Democrats were actually training Democrats to run in the Republican Party. And I've seen it here locally. There are these lifelong liberal, far left progressive Democrats who suddenly showed up at the GOP and said, hey, I lost my election bid, but today I'm a Republican. And that stupid, ridiculous big tent mentality that invaded the Republican Party. Many Republicans welcomed him in right away without any kind of probationary period and helped these Democrats. They're Democrats. They helped them get elected. So in my book, I don't think we're Republicans fighting Republicans. I think we're Republicans cleaning house and getting rid of the people that don't belong in our party. But as far as the radio show, I'm actually part of a few different things. I am a part of Ohio Political News. That's and actually Ohio Political News is restreaming this. Ohio Political News with Joe Miller and Brian Massey. If you're in Ohio, you know the name Brian Massey. He's one of the heads behind Axe Ohio Tax, trying to get rid of property tax in Ohio. So Joe, Brian, and I run Ohio Political News. I am also the founder and creator of Unwoke Academy, unwoke.academy. And my radio show, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, is Voice of Geauga. That's Voice of Geauga. Geauga is the county in Ohio that I live in. Voice of Geauga is a radio show, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., and it is a live stream podcast simultaneously, so people can get behind the scenes glimpse into what's happening at the radio station.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. You do a terrific job, and we need more people like you. In Arkansas, we got somebody in the chat saying Arkansas GOP does not want precinct captain slots filled. So hear exactly what you're saying and see what happens when somebody from Arkansas puts that in. So we have different states putting information out. I want to thank you. We pretty much have one person, at least from every state on here, and that's very important. So we get their information. Please put it in the chat. We're looking at everything going on. Our next speaker, Chan Stowell from Minnesota. I don't need an introduction for him because he's all around guy. So come on down, Chan.
Am I on?
Unmute.
Oh, hold on. Typical.
We can't hear you, Chan. All right, let's move on to Joel Brazil from Wisconsin, and then we'll come back to Chan a little bit later. Joel, you there?
Yeah, Joel's here. How are you guys doing?
We're doing
So,
fantastic.
excellent. So, yeah, I'm interested in hearing what Chan has to say. So I'll just go ahead and go. Yeah, here in Wisconsin, we are a special situation. We have all these at a national level. We say there are 400,000 seats, and 200,000 are filled in Wisconsin. Uh, Most of the people in leadership don't even know these seats exist. So we're behind the 8 ball. However, there are islands of knowledge and enlightenment. And so we have 7,200 wards and let's say about 2,550 seats we could fill. Um, and so in certain counties, such as Milwaukee, Waukesha, St. Croix, and Jackson, what you do is if you want to make contact with the Republican Party, you basically call the contact point, which would be the chair. And in those counties, Milwaukee, Waukesha, St. Croix, and Jackson, I would say the leadership of those counties probably knows about precinct strategy or precinct committeemen or committeemen, ward captains, certain terms like that. And you'll receive a warm welcome or a good vibe. So one of the things in Milwaukee, people can do a web search, Operation Connecting Milwaukee. I have a lot of enthusiasm about the work of Lisa Bingenheimer over there, and they seem to be at the tip of the spear. And so we're moving forward in Milwaukee County. I pray they end up being a template for the rest of the state. What I would encourage people to do, I'm speaking now to the people in Wisconsin. We are in a special situation. There are 72 counties. 71 of the 72 counties have county party organizations. While you can go ahead and contact your county party, and I encourage you to get involved. And whether we try, Menominee County is the only one without an organization. They're going to try to get it going again. You can contact your county party and get involved. They very well may not know what precinct committeemen are about, or committeemen. In this case, Wisconsin, it's called committeemen or committee women. What I'd like for you to generally is to be in contact with me so that you can get some encouragement and more information. Each county, more or less, is about its own critter, its own situation. So on the precinctprojectusa.org website as a contact per state, and I am the one in St. Croix County. And I welcome you to text me, and if you wanted to email me, it's just, if you look it up, it's my first name dot last name at gmail.com. I'm working on encouraging precinct strategy at the state level. I'm working through leadership at the state level, and I'll just say it would be really great to get that going at the state, the state party, the Republican Party of Wisconsin. But there is pushback there. There are folks that are not wanting this stuff to prevail or succeed, and but it's a small faction. In many cases, I think at this point we're gotten to the point where people are just I'd say don't assert evil when it could be just incompetence. So I'd say in many ways they're laziness. So what I'd like to do is encourage these people, use the carrot, volunteer. I encourage everybody to volunteer, but what I'm doing is trying to volunteer to help them out. And if all goes well, that will be the way we go. So in any case, for instance, the Republican Party of Wisconsin has something called community captains. And I don't even know if this program is even in existence now in terms of like someone administering it. but it's on their website. They were pushing it in the 2013-14 time frame. And I don't know what's going on. So see, this is just the way it is. So I'm going to try to help them get something going. Finally, there is Charlie Fleischman was on the election integrity call yesterday. I've been in contact with him, and he has something called neighborhood ambassadors, and I'd like to get that actually launched in Wisconsin, and it's very close to happening. He already has it Wisconsin up, and he just needs one little tweak. And anybody in Wisconsin, you can start making contact with the people that are near you if you want to be a worker bee. But what I'd really love to do is to have people contact me as organizers, and we'll get you educated, and then you get your county party educated, and we'll get this going. And we really need to get it going. Maria Lazar is someone we need to get into the state Supreme Court. That election's coming up here in April. So we really need as many boots on the ground that'll get out there and make contact with the voters. And I believe part of the reason why these seats are discouraged is because you can organize voters to hold elected officials accountable. And if it's anything that the elected officials don't want these days, a lot of them, the bad ones, they don't want to be held accountable. So in any case, thanks for your time, and I look forward to hearing what everybody else has to say later in the call.
Joel, why don't you tell us about the young lady you gave me, Lisa, and how she's getting people involved in Wisconsin?
Okay. Well, my understanding is what she's doing is she's what they're doing there in Milwaukee County is they're organizing basically taxpayer associations. They call it, for instance, the one in West Allis is the West Allis Taxpayers Association. So, in some sense, and she did this before she became the executive director of the Republican Party of Milwaukee County. But now that she is the executive director, they're going to continue that pattern. So that's kind of like an indirect means for making contact with voters. It's nonpartisan. For instance, one of the things here in St. Croix County, we have a situation where we have boys in the girls' bathrooms. So what we have is, I don't remember the exact name of the organization, but you can have an advocacy group that is supporting schools. And then in that process, you can also, you can find out where people stand. And so, yeah, she's doing taxpayers associations. I recommend, it's an option to consider doing some kind of a more community-oriented activity, school supporting schools. And so that's what she's up to. Yeah.
So one of the things that, how we get people together is you gave me a lot of people in different states to call. And one of the things we can do is the first call that we had a couple of weeks ago was very interesting because people in Washington wanted to get a hold of people in Pennsylvania. And this is a great way to do it. And I see Jeff Joseph is on from Washington. He came down to visit me when he went to visit his son in Melbourne. And he's also wearing one of our shirts, theflagshirt.com. We'll get him on later and show it to you all. Thank you. So it's very important for communication. One of the things that we're missing and why we do this is to get communication around from every state and listen to what everybody's saying, because nobody would know what's going on in Wisconsin or Ohio or Michigan if you live in Florida unless you come on and talk about it. So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, one way is just my phone number. I'll go. I don't mind giving it. I invite people to text me though, 651-356-2390. And then for my email address, it's on the, well, I'll just tell you what it is. Anyway, first name is Joel, Joel, and then dot, and the last name is Breazeale at gmail.com, and just put something in the subject of Precinct Project USA, and same thing in the text message, introduce yourselves. I get a lot of calls, so it's just best to text me first, and otherwise potluck for me to answer. I'll probably I just get a lot of spam calls. So in any case, yeah, I'd love to talk to people, and if you're in another state, and this sounds like a lot, like the state party has really become a big social club, country club, and they don't act like they want to win elections. I think we're in the same boat. So in any case, I'd love to talk to you, and we'll come up with some good ideas.
Well, thank you very much, Joe. We appreciate it. You're one of the few that really communicate every day, and that's great. Let's see if we got Chan. Velmo, do we have Chan up? Was he able to come back?
I'm not sure. I believe that he was having some technical
Can you hear
difficulties.
me?
All right. Well, why don't we,
Here you
if-
are. Hi, Chan.
there he is. Chan, are you okay to come on?
I'm fighting ready.
Okay, go ahead. Chan Stoll from Minnesota.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of the war already. There's no doubt the Republicans will sweep the state. The issue is it pro bono, public good in control, or something else? There's so much distrust in this state among Republicans that it's disgusting. We were involved in getting Wendy Phillips elected Secretary of State, which is probably the single most important office in the state because election integrity goes through the Secretary of State. We're united on this call because we all worked last time on Royce White's campaign, thanks to Dan Schultz getting at least me involved. I still have the rubber band around my wrist that Wendy gave me at an event down in South Minnesota. Sombrota, the rubber band ring reads, "God's got this." And that's what's going to happen, except we've got to make sure the people come out of this election in control, not something else. There's a real commitment at the top even of the Republican Party to at least portray change. And I have to take a person at the word. I've been in the organizing process as we fight the battle of getting Wendy in front of everybody that's important in the state, which is right now the already endorsed, already elected delegates to the convention. I heard Alex talk. He's the chairman of our party, speak at one of the endorsing conventions I was at, say there's no rhinos left in Minnesota. Well, there may be words called snakes, there may not be, but I'm gonna, take Reagan's trust and verify and speak no ill of any Republican until my verification works. It just happens that the key player at the state level is a fellow named A.K. Kamara, who I trust like a brother. He happens to be in the next office to my insurance agent. He's wonderful, but the dividing issue right now is the cost and distance of the convention. Whether I'll take the establishment at their word that they've done everything to reduce the cost, but it started off at $250 and it's down to $200. It's a major point of division in this coming election, and if the grassroots are not represented equally at that convention, the split's going to remain no matter what. The election system has to be completely destroyed. The Save America Act identifies the key things that have to happen. Our voter rolls are terrible. Mail-in ballots are used against us. There's just nothing good about the election system. It has to be abandoned, and it has to be paper ballots counted by local people so we can build trust back here. Trust is the major factor. My cohort in this attack, Tina, Stadler is also part of the campaign team for Wendy. I've contacted a number of friends who are reluctant to give their names or list to the Republican Party because they've been so abused in the past. The major issue that divided this state last year was last election cycle was events that occurred in Otter Tail County and caused such divisiveness that Wendy from South Minnesota ran up at the request of people to help resolve that issue. And for that good work, she was canned from the party in the nastiest of ways, and she's back in the battle. There's dead bodies on, let me just say, what looked like her side or my side in that, because we stood with a group that had been exiled from the party because of how the establishment interpreted the rules. Well, the other side won, and I've been up in enemy territory, and I got 0 volunteers to sign up the last 2 county conventions I've had. But the people are lovely. Let me just tell you, it's an issue of trust. But the opponent's campaign manager up there was already a friend of those people. Matter of fact, anyway, just trying to say we've got to promote unity, not throw the baby out with the bathwater. The experience on the Royce campaign, I knew we were going to win on the Otter Tail issue, and told David Penn the morning of the election we'd win probably 70% because I could see the unity at the grassroots level. The caucus system in this state is getting almost totally grassroots run. And we won 68% on the first ballot for the first time ever. And then when the money shifted and the establishment threw funds behind and even endorsed the defeated candidate in that convention, sneakily, not out in front, but Royce went from a 68% majority to barely 54% in the primary election. It's going to be even worse this year because of the divisiveness in the grassroots. If we don't always remember, we've got to be ready for the next round. We're united on election integrity. I have no doubt whether Wendy or the other candidate, who's a good man, but a serial political candidate, is going to be able to build a solution that the people will trust. We've got to build it from the ground up. We still haven't uncovered all the problems. I know what the solution is, so we got to start from scratch. I see everything working in our favor right now. When Trump announces the drastic measures of the Save America Act one way, or executive order the other way, it works to our advantage in terms of panicking the opposition. We know about catastrophes, and we're not going to miss this one in there. But anyway, right now, our major problem is getting pressure on or not pressure even, it's getting Wendy to be known by all the already elected delegates to the convention. And that's a monumental task. We need to get her in person or on podcast, radio shows, etc., throughout the state, which we're rapidly doing. I mean, this is a grassroots start from scratch team that's been built, but really well connected. So let me see if there's any questions and contributions, ideas there. Steve, you've been through this battle. You know what I'm talking about. Steve and I connected on the last round when he called me and asked me to find which of our 8 CD chairmen could be identified as a real MAGA Trump supporter. And I called the state. I came back. I feel like this the man looking for the honest man. I could not find anyone that I could say 100%. But that's
1
the
minute.
issue of trust that
1 minute.
we've got to rebuild. But we got to win the election no matter what. The Republicans are going to win. It's just who's in control when the dust settles. Is it somebody we can trust, all of us, or is it going to continue to be the conflict that's here?
Thank you. How do they reach you, Chan? I guess you can't hear. He's got a little problem technically. Okay, thank you very much, Chan. We're moving on now. We're going to have, that is the end of the first hour. And some of the things we're going to talk to you about. We're going to first thank a few people that help us and give you some ideas that are coming in from the chat. First thing I'd like to say, yesterday on our election security call, we had Sam Anthony, yournews.com. I want everybody to write this down. You have to go to www.yournews.com. Why is that important? Yournews.com puts up conservative articles. He's got 11,000 people working for him. You can put news up from your zip code where people can see that. Also, one of the writers for that, who was in Fort Lauderdale, took me 4 years to find a writer. You need to get writers in every one of your precincts. Stephen Schneider puts up articles about everything that we do on yournews.com. Another person who is very important in in what we're doing, Jeff Davis, myscgop.com. Every day he puts out an article in South Carolina to the people in South Carolina, letting them know what's going on. How are you going to communicate with everybody around if you can't do that? I want to thank Brooke Remy. She is one of the heads who nobody knows about on election security for the RNC, which we've worked on for many years, just trying to get information and communication, because part of being a committee man and committee woman is to have somebody in your committee to be involved in election security and, you know, going down and making sure the votes are right. The RNC hasn't pushed that much, but they're starting to do that now. We also want to thank some of our podcasters, Scott McKay in Texas, Dr. Naomi Wolf, who you all know, she's streaming this today, Cloud Hub. He's down in the Bahamas, but he's all over the United States. Kevin Hoyt, Grassroots Warrior Network. Jody Cox, one of my first people that I interviewed. She interviewed me, Just Jody, really terrific girl, and many, many other people. So this is very important. One, I will connect you with podcasters around the United States if you'd like to come on somebody's show and talk about your local community. I mean, the radio shows. One of our good people, Joe DeBox in New York City. Somebody recommended I speak to him about 6 months ago. We've become very friendly. He flew down here, did one of our shows, came a couple of weeks ago, did our election security call, got me connected with radio shows in New York. And the most important thing is get the word out. If you get, a lot of people have no clue what's going on when it comes to becoming a committee man and committee woman. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do. One person in every state is listed. Again, go to, if you're listening on all our podcasters, go to precinctprojectusa.org. Very important. We spend a lot of time doing this and putting this together. Again, it's very important to become a committee man and committee woman. Our goal is to get 200,000 new committee men and committee women. We'll take 300,000. How do we do it? Those are all the things we're going to be listing and coming out over the next few months. We're going to get all kind of input to see how we can get new people. In Broward County, where I'm the vice chair, work closely with the chairman. What we're doing is we spend $40,000 in texting all the Republican households that have one Democrat in it to try to move them over to a Republican. At the same time, asking them to get involved. Over the next 6 months, as the candidates knock on doors, we're asking candidates, which don't usually do this, to ask people to get involved in our committees and take care of that. We're asking clubs, Moms for America, 500,000 people. There's many, many organizations that have many people that are not committee men and committee women. Very important to do that. YR is very important to do that. Anybody who is connected with Turning Point USA, we need to get them involved. You can see who's on this thing. We do not have any young people on it. We need to get YRs, and on our next precinct call, we'll definitely get a YR to speak, because we got to know how they're getting people put together. So our next segment is going to be on training people, and we're going to bring on David Eastman, and he will be, Dave, you're up there. He's in Alaska, came all the way down from Alaska to speak to us today. So go ahead, Dave.
Hi, Steve. Well, pleasure to talk with all of you. I started the precinct strategy back in 2008. Been working at off and on, but mostly on since that time. So about 18 years. And the last 8 years I spent in our legislature in the state house as a representative. So I can tell you a little bit about how the battle goes, both in the halls of the Capitol and also at the grassroots level. One of the things that I wanted to make sure and point out, which doesn't get talked about enough, is that we, as the grassroots, oftentimes confuse the difference between a political battle and a legal battle. And the reason that's important is because if you are dealing with a political battle, you can't win legally because it's a political battle. So you can't fight it the same way that you would as a legal battle, and vice versa. So many times we see somebody do something wrong, they break the rules, they violate the bylaws, they maybe even, go out and break some, state laws, statutes, election laws, that kind of thing. And we think, well, gosh, that they broke the law, therefore the solution to that is to sue them, take them to court, convince a prosecutor to prosecute them, and that sort of thing. And sometimes, very rarely, that might be the right approach to take. But if you're dealing with a political battle, that is actually a losing strategy. Not only does it take away time that you could be spending fighting the battle in the public square, but it also costs money. The outcomes aren't always predictable. So maybe even it's a good case and you get a bad outcome, and then folks come away discouraged. And you look back on that and you say, wow, well, if we had not spent time and energy in that direction, maybe we could have spent it on something, better. So don't take the easy approach of trying to circumvent a political battle by winning in the courtroom, because it's not there. It's in the public arena, and whether or not you're dealing with a scoundrel or a scalawag or someone who is just very criminal in what they're doing, you don't have the option really of beating them politically somewhere else. You have to beat them politically in the public arena. And in order to do that, part of what you need to know is who you're up against, who your opposition is, how they think, what they're trying to accomplish. Here in Alaska, the Republican Party has been in the majority in the legislature, both the House and the Senate, for about 30 years. We have Republican majority every year, every election, and yet we aren't very Republican when it comes to state policy. And you get to understand, well, how does it work where you are a Republican legislator, but you don't want to accomplish Republican, things that Republican voters are trying to accomplish. Like so many other states, but I can speak specifically to Alaska, we are a status quo Republican Party. And what that means is that the function that the party serves, regardless of the messaging, regardless of the advertising and the ads, they serve maintaining the status quo. Now, if you're in a very conservative state and they've got great policies, maybe that's a good thing. In Alaska, we're not, and so it's not a good thing. We're very liberal in many, many ways. We're more of a blue state if you look at our state policies. And so coming into that and trying to maintain the status quo and make sure that nothing changes, well, usually you would expect that a blue party would be wanting to do that. If blue policies are in effect, keeping them in place isn't very red, isn't very conservative. But that is too often the role and the function that the party serves. And so those who are part of that apparatus, who are working to achieve that, maybe whether they've thought about it or not, are going to be your opposition, whether they look at you as opposition or not. When push comes to shove and you're trying to achieve something in a policy arena, like you want to protect our elections, you want voter integrity, you want those things, you're going to find that when it comes time to make the decision and change the policy, they will be in the opposition. So understand that, recognize that. You need to know what it is that those who are a part of the status quo and trying to maintain the status quo get out of being involved in politics. It's not policy, and maybe for you it is policy, but recognize that most of those who are in the Republican Party in my state aren't there because they want to change policy. They're there because there's something for them or someone they care about that they can do or achieve in politics. Sometimes that's just be part of a social organization, go to a lot of nice fancy events. There are a lot of people like that. That shouldn't strike you as strange, because it's actually, in some places, the majority of the people that you're going to come in contact with. They are not like you, and that's okay. We need people like you, even though we're in the minority sometimes, focusing on policy. I wanted to give you an example of what to do when you are at a convention, you are trying to elect someone to a precinct position, and the other side just decides, oh, heck with it. We're just not going to follow the rules today. We're not going to hold the election when it's supposed to happen. We're going to do it some other way. We're going to take all the people that are going to vote against us and kick them out of the room, and then we'll hold the election. All of these things have happened, and probably in every state, but certainly in my state. This last weekend, we had an election for our precinct committeemen that, it sort of didn't happen. It was election day, everybody showed up to vote, and then some politicians showed up and said, we're just not electing precinct leaders. It just ain't going to happen. And so, what do you do in that situation? So Tuesday night, we met with some of the local leaders that were part of that, and we're talking them through, how do you respond to that? The desire on the part of some is that you'd be discouraged. You'd say, hey, this is an unethical, organization. I don't want to be part of it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to spend my time on things that are more effective, more valuable, maybe more, personally meaningful to you. And in politics, that is how you win. It's not just by winning an election, because that has to happen on a regular basis. You don't win or lose in politics just by winning elections. You win or lose by giving up is how you lose. It's the only way you actually lose. It's when the other side has discouraged, demoralized you, and to put you into depression to the point where you don't show up for the battle next time. And they do. And by virtue of that, then their side will win. It may not be sexy and exciting, but it's a war of attrition. And those of us who've been in the game long enough know that the easiest way to write someone off politically is just to know that they're not going to show up after a certain period of time. So you wait them out. Whether that's terrorists in a country waiting for the military to leave so that they can go back to being terrorists, same kind of idea. If you know that they're going to leave in 6 months, then you wait them out, and in 6 months you win. And if that's 2 years from now at the next election, then it's the same idea. Now, those that you are going to be coming up against in the Republican Party hierarchy, like I said, they're not there to change anything, so they don't actually, a lot of the time, want to be in control. They don't want maximum political power, shall we say. I'll give you an example. Some friends of mine were in the state legislature in Texas back in 2010. And in Texas, in the state house, there was 150 seats. The status quo Republican Party wants to have 100 or so seats. But the or so is very important. They'd actually really like to have 99. Now, why would they like to have 99 seats? Well, 99 is a solid majority that's great. You know, you get all the fancy titles and a lot of the committee chairmanships and all sorts of things. So you've got a lot of, recognized political capital, but you don't have 2/3, because as soon as you get, past that 100 vote threshold, now you got 2/3. Now you have a whole lot more political responsibility. Now, this came out in 2010 because right after the election, where they achieved that perfect 99, out of 150 majority, 2 Democrats really messed things up by switching and becoming Republicans in the legislature. And suddenly you went from 99 seats held by Republicans, now you have 101, which is completely different, situation. Now you have 2/3. Now the grassroots expect you to actually do all the things that you campaigned on doing. And you don't have any excuse to say, well, the Democrats are going to veto it. We don't have the 2/3. No, now you've got a supermajority. So what did the Republicans, in the legislature do at that point? Well, there was a meeting held, and the number one, agenda at that meeting was, how do we lose 2 seats? And that is politics. You don't always see that from the outside, but inside, that's how the game is played. If you're dealing with people who want to be part of the status quo, they would love to be winning elections and have all sorts of notoriety and fame and popularity, but they really don't want to actually change anything. So here in my state, what we saw here in a recent election was, as always happens, you get a Republican majority in the state Senate, and they had to decide, how do we get out of the majority? So what they did was, 8 out of 11 Republicans in the Senate decided to join the 9 Democrat caucus. Democrats were in the minority, but if you add 8 Republicans to 9 Democrats, now you have a majority of Democrats in the caucus. Now you have a majority. Now you don't have, anything that people actually expect you to accomplish, because, well, the Democrats are in the majority in a way. And so you weasel out of accountability by playing these kinds of games and doing these kinds of things. Expect it to happen. It will. How it's going to happen in your, local part of the country, I can't tell you. But I can tell you, having been at this for, the last 18 years, they're probably going to pull from some of the same, tricks and rule book that they've done in our state. And there's all sorts of, ways to win at politics. Not always ethical, not always on the up and up, but these are the things that happen. So when someone, decides to cancel the election, for example, we're not going to have any precinct leaders, for the next 2 years. Well, how do you respond to that? Well, you need to respond in a way that at the end of the conflict, at the end of that particular battle, you come away more effective politically for the next battle than you were, going into it. So if you're going to spend a lot of time, complaining about the other side, being, unsportsmanlike and so forth, do it in such a way that you are better prepared to beat them at the next round. And if you whatever you're doing is going to result in you having less political influence and a smaller platform and a quieter microphone politically, it's not worth doing in a political battle. It might feel good at the time, you might get a lot of things off your chest, but from a political strategy perspective, when you're training others, when you are engaged in a political battle, you need to be looking at it from the long-term view. Again, that war of attrition. And from that long-term view, whatever you're doing today needs to result in you being more effective tomorrow for whatever that next battle is. And so you need to think critically and strategically. The time, the energy, the money that I'm investing right now, it needs to come in at a good return. And it's less about what feels good for me to do and more about what's going to hurt the opposition politically. I'll give you a personal example. So in the legislature, I'm a member of a committee. The committee chairman, has bills that are coming before us. We're going to deal with amendments. At one particular meeting, the chairman put forward amendments, and then I raised, my hand to put forward my amendment, and the chairman said, no, you can't do amendments. And of course, that's not the way the process goes. Everyone has a chance to do amendments. So she was out of line for doing that. So my colleague to my right, another Republican, just innocently asks, so why can't he have his amendment? You just did your amendment. And she responded, on video in front of everyone, I don't feel like it. And that was surprising. You don't often get that level of candor from someone who's the chairman of a committee who wields significant political power. In this case, she was the chairman of the most powerful
Dave,
committee in the legislature.
1 minute,
And-
and tell them how to get a hold of you.
Yes. And in that situation, she could at that moment do whatever she wanted to, and she did. And so what we did in response was, very publicly, we went back and pointed out, how can we engage as legislators when we don't know what it is that is keeping us from being able to, have our right to be heard as amendments? I spoke about, one of my friends in the military who was in Poland, who went through the Polish Military Academy and wasn't able to be commissioned in the military because his parents couldn't afford a bride, which was something you needed to do at that time. And so by virtue of exposing that publicly, the public backlash against the chairman was so severe that she was literally forced to eat crow and come back and hold a new meeting and allow us to put forward our amendment. Even though we were in the minority, we had no power. Theoretically, she can do whatever she wants. And in a political battle, that is how the game is played. I can't tell you how it's going to work in your state, but I can tell you the principles are going to be the same. So for those in Alaska, you can reach me at david.eastman@gmail.com or davideastman.org. We're going to keep fighting, encouraging you to stay the course, and whatever they throw at you, just take the flak and keep on running. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last night I spoke to Peter Tickton, I asked him about Tina Peters. As you know, we always talk about Tina Peters. He said, everybody lay back, give us a couple of weeks. We think that the governor will do the pardon the first week of April. If not, we'll go back on and we'll start to attack them again and start getting after them. That's the first thing. Second thing is, yesterday over 1,000 people came on and bought shirts from us, which we appreciate. Go to www.theflagshirt.com. All the 250 new stuff is there. I showed tons of shirts yesterday. I wore different ones. Anybody wants to reach out, stern1054@gmail.com. We got a lot of messages from the war room talking about Kerry Lake. We want to thank Stacy Malloy from Vermont for her feedback and helping me in Vermont, and people from New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Gary Myers. We got a lot of people on this call, and we need more for the next time. Our next guest coming up are from the state of Washington, Robin Balcom. I believe she's in the airport, and Matthew Hawkins. So both of you come on, and I'm not sure who's going to speak first or both together. Go ahead, Robin.
Hi there. Matthew, do you need to leave? Do you want to say something before you have to take off?
I got about 15 minutes and then I got to get out of here.
Well, you go ahead.
Well, what I wanted to be able to say to this audience is the precinct strategy, I think, is key for turning things around within our states. Washington State has proven that one out both in Spokane County as well as in King County, as in the last 3 years, groups stepped forward to begin to take over their counties from the standpoint of the precinct project. And what's material about that is that even though King County is the big gorilla in the room, it is the big population center for Washington State. Within Washington, the precinct project is really keyed in on representation by counties.
Yeah.
So everybody's got to think about this one through. It's not just population centers. For state representation within the GOP, it's about county representation too. So we've got to win within our counties, because at the end of the day, it's the counties that really control the strategy development at the state GOP level. And I think what I'm finding out is that there's a difference on how each of the states are run and managed. And so that's the reason why I put that one chart out there for everybody to talk about. It says, come to understand how your state is having an impact, because in Washington, our time for decision making is between now and the first week in May.
Hey, yeah.
So whatever help we can get from Steve Bannon and everybody else across the nation to blast out this message that we want to get rid of Lenin's statue that's in Seattle. We want to get rid of the
It's for
communist.
sale.
Yeah,
It's actually
yeah.
for sale.
Is it really?
It is.
Okay, so we want to get rid of that influence here, and I think people are waking up. Even in our urban centers, people are waking up that it's time to take back representation. So, anyways, that's about all I wanted to say. I do have my project Counties First, which helps support this. I think it's in complete alignment with the PCO project. But we've got to get our counties back to the forefront. We got to get precincts back to the forefront. We've got to understand the value of representation in our government.
Yep.
Robert, on to you.
I'm from the guerrilla area. I thought of several things, especially while David was talking. And first thing I want to say that, and just strongly say that we all have to get in our head, is that we are in the midst of psychological warfare. And when you kind of, I mean, it helps me, and we have to be willing to stay positive, to not become a victim and get discouraged or get confused by all the mainstream lies and everything. But we just have to put our hand on this plow of growing our grassroots numbers. And, I'll admit it, eternally optimist, because I am so full of faith and I believe nothing's impossible with God. And even my optimism seriously annoys people, and I could care less, because I refuse to be this browbeaten, no, we aren't going to be able to get this done. And see, I'm going to push back on, God bless David Eastman, and I hope he's still on the call. If the grassroots, it's important that we know the statutes and the laws that govern our political parties in our state. I don't know. Yeah. I'm guessing that they're different in different states. We have what's called RCWs, Revised Code of Washington. Before we even developed our strategy for how we were going to make changes in the party, we made sure that we were doing everything in accordance with the law and that we had the law on our sides. Secondly, we brought in parliamentarian guru, so that, because the old guard had been just so manipulative at shutting down. I mean, people would point of order, he would ignore them. We brought in somebody who taught us how to maneuver around parliamentarian manipulation. And what it took so much courage, because we had people that when the person up at the front would be shouting us down, the rest of us in the audience, we all had a little script that when we were shut down, we would all say, no, and but you have to learn how not to be bullied by those who took a few excerpts out of parliamentarian and in those meetings. And again, this is all with the goal of taking control of your local party, your county party, and then you're able to influence up through the state and the rest of it. But what else was there?
You learned how to play the game is what you did. You learned how to play the game. You learned how to play the game.
Yeah. So when Eastman was saying, they wouldn't let us wouldn't let us elect PCOs. Oh, that would not happen, but you have to know that just one strong personality or some establishment know-it-all, you can say, no, I got the RCW, or I've got the code. I know what the law is, and we will have this meeting and we will elect. So it does take courage. I think it takes positivity. It takes, I'm all personality and very little brains at times, I'm afraid, but I'm definitely not a data person. Like, we have to make room that there needs to be a lot of different skills and personalities coming together. I can be the cheerleader, but if you ask me right now, how many open precincts, I just don't retain numbers very well. So we got to capture the number of people, and we got to capture the administrative people. Velma, I'm so appreciative of you coming in and wrangling us all to be able to be together. And we do need to encourage each other. Other than that, I don't know, Steve, what else?
Let me just point out one thing for what Robin has done in her team. In King County, there's about 2,700 precincts in King County alone, out of the 8,000 precincts in the state. And with that, they were able to turn their county. I think you guys got about a 200 swing of new precincts.
We whipped votes. We knew how people were voting before they came in the room.
Right. So you help. So with just 200 people about that a year and a half ago, you guys were able to swing that county and change out your leadership.
Entirely.
So with Spokane changing out, with King County changing out, we have a chance of changing out our state again, so that overall strategy will really play through.
Driving the crazies out.
Get the crazies out. And but by doing that, I think we have a chance of changing policy in Washington State so that we are not that far left wacko state. We have the chance of becoming a semblance of normalcy of
Common
where
sense.
the
Yeah.
common sense America. Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
See, that's what we have for today.
Okay, you got it. Next up, we have Andy Mann, who is president for Right for Bucks, and Donna Ellingston, his right-hand girl. Both of, if it wasn't for Andy, we wouldn't be having this because Andy went to Velma, Velma went to me, and we put this all together. So thank you very much, Andy, because this is very important for the country. We're getting a lot of feedback. People are learning stuff, but we're going to get more information out. So please go to precinctprojectusa.org. That's precinctprojectusa.org. Get signed up so you get information. We'll be sending you out information. We'll be answering your questions. We're getting you guidance, and you will be able to speak to somebody in your state. If you'd like to join, there is one person in every state. Somebody just texted me from Hawaii, so we're all the way out there. Got another text from a guy in Europe that I know saying he's listening. And he said, if you're in Britain and you say anything about the government that's bad, you could get arrested. So these are things that are happening all over the world. And we see this. And if we don't protect ourselves here and win the election for 2026, we're doomed. And the Republicans right now are not showing up at the polls. It's on midterm elections. We only get about 24% turning out. That's high against 70 to 80% in the presidential elections. So we have a lot of work to do, because if we bring more people out to vote and we do it through precinct strategy, we got a chance to win the midterms. So Andy, come on down. Donna. You want to unmute, Donna?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Okay, go ahead, Donna.
Andy, you're on mute, I think.
Why
Okay.
don't you-
How
Go ahead,
about
Andy.
now?
Okay. Start it over again, Andy.
All right. How about now? Is that better?
Good, that's
Yeah,
better.
you're up. Go ahead, Andy.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody here. Great to see all these fine faces. Velma, can you make me a co-host so I can share some screens with you guys on some of these tools that we have?
You should be able to do screen share. I set it so that everybody could share their screen.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get in and out here quick today. I know everybody's busy. I just wanted to spend a few minutes to talk to people about some of the tools that people need. Now, for those of you that have been doing the precinct strategy for a while, you're not going to find many surprises here. You maybe learn a few things that we do different than others. This will mainly be for people who are looking to start the precinct strategy or don't know what to do with it yet, or if there's not a precinct strategy operation going on in your state or in your county. There are certain things that you can do to shorten your learning curve, make you more effective, and have you be able to win and recruit these committee people so that we can get them in place. So the first thing is that you should have a website. Okay, we've got a website here that I will share, and where is it now? Let's see here. Is that it? Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, this is the calendar on our Right for Bucks website. So we post our events. We have links to Zoom meetings. We've got directions to the events that are there. So you got to have a website to send people to. You can collect money for it. You got a donate button up there. We also have a blog. We've got a really nice resources page. if you scroll down on the resources page, if you can see that, you can see that we have a quarterly newsletter section. We've got forms and templates and handouts that are posted here in PDF form. We have training and useful information. Some of this is some of the stuff that Donna put together for us over the last several years of doing training for precinct committee people. We've got things related to the Bucks County Republican Committee with regard to our lawsuit, the bylaws for the state, the bylaws for the county, information on how the county works. We've got a proxy form. We've got a sample ballot there, information from the executive committee. We also have some video resources, links to training videos that we have on our Rumble channel. And so people can click on those, watch the videos, and we also have some news sites here that we push people to. And so it's a good spot for people to go. We also added a special page called the Bucks County or the GOP Bylaws Project. We filed right to knows in all 67 counties of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and we've received a whole bunch. We had some rejected. They told us we didn't have standing, which was nonsense. But so we put together this project, and we've posted all of the bylaws that we've gotten from the different county committees all over the state. And this is important because we read all of them, and we know around the state who has good bylaws, who doesn't. And we are posting them on here. So anybody from anywhere in Pennsylvania who wants to know what their bylaws are for their local county committee, you can come here and you can find Butler County, Cambria County, Chester County, where Donna is, et cetera, et cetera. And what our ultimate goal is to have the PA GOP standardize the bylaws across all 67 counties. We're working on right now getting our own Bucks County bylaws updated. And that's coming about via a lawsuit that we filed. So a major lawsuit that we filed in Pennsylvania to have the political parties have to comply with the law around nonprofit associations. So that's that. So I'm going to stop that share. And so we think you should have a website. You also need to purchase a subscription to an industrial strength email platform, because if you get more than 25 or 30 people on an email chain, now you got Outlook or Verizon or Comcast or whatever telling you that you can't send this out because you're spamming people because you have too many people. There are rules against that. So you need one of these compliant email systems that will allow you to send out hundreds or thousands of emails. Okay. And you can, they've got Constant Contact, MailChimp. We've got one integrated with our CRM, our customer relation management database software that we use, which is an off-the-shelf product called ACT, which we have modified for our purposes. Of course, you got to have social media presence. So you got to have a page on Facebook. You got to have people connected to your pages on Facebook. Have a Twitter account and Instagram, all of them. And find somebody who's active and have a little team of people that are posting on social media for you all the time, coming up with flyers, invitations to your events, invitations to your Zoom meetings that you're holding online. You need to enlist the help of volunteers with superpowers. So find data people that can do work for free so you don't have to spend all kinds of money managing your database. If you've got people that are graphic designers, enlist their services to help you with your flyers and your website design and all that. So you need people that have certain sets of skills to fill in your team. You also want to find a parliamentarian. Totally agree with Robin on that. And because the GOP is going to steamroll you when you get into local meetings and you try to challenge what's going on. They're going to try to shout you down or shut you up. And if you don't know the rules and how to deal with it, then you're going to be at a severe disadvantage. So having a parliamentarian is very important. You can go to your Board of Elections or whatever they call it in your state or your county, and you can request a copy of the voter rolls for your county. And you can have that, pick that up on a zip drive or a thumb drive, and you can import that into your database. So now you've got a list of all the voters in the county and where they live and how often they voted. And this is really great information we imported this into our program that we use, and I'll share that just briefly here. This is the off-the-shelf version of ACT that we have customized. You can see over here that we've created all kinds of groups. So wherever you are in the county, if you're this township or that township, we've got people separated. We have lists of all the existing committee people, the state committee people. And so we've got all their information in here. And so we group them together and we can send them emails or even text messages directly from this system that you can communicate with people. And depending on the message and the audience, you can customize that and send it out to different groups of people. And it's very effective in reaching people and staying organized and getting your message out there. Let's see here. What else do I got here? You want to maintain strict control over your data. So there's going to be people that are going to want you to share lists that are tied to candidate campaigns. A lot of the time, people give out the lists of people to candidate campaigns, and those things end up making their way to the establishment GOP people. You want to be discerning about who you give your data to. And so you also want to have enlist the help of people that are on the inside of the party. So there's often going to be people inside the party that have access to their data and their information that will be willing, the party will be willing to share with them, but not you. So enlist them as friends and use them as you will to do the same things that they're going to do to you, which is try to get all your data. And so, you just have to be creative and never underestimate the lengths that these people will go to stop you. Here in Bucks County, we are finally breaking through it. We just had our petition signing period end about a week ago, and we did recruit a bunch of people to run for the committee, but it's through the strength of the precinct strategy that we have forced them to deal with us now, because we've got so many people that are involved. And we're pushing for a rewrite of the bylaws that have been in place for 53 years in Bucks County. We've had 2 leaders over 53 years because of these bylaws. So learning your rules in your state and the laws around what the committees can and can't do, very important. Also invaluable having a pro bono lawyer that can do work for you, like we have in Bucks County here. Andy Titleman has done great work on behalf of our committee at the Commonwealth Court level, which is the appellate court that we won a couple months ago, our case. And so that's working its way back down here to the county level. And so, things are happening here, but it's only through organization and having these tools that you put, to work for you so that you can get the most out of your precinct precinct strategy. I'm going to hand it over now to Donna Ellingson, who's in Chester County, Pennsylvania, and she runs all of the training meetings for Right for Bucks when we're recruiting our committee people. So take it away, Donna.
Fantastic presentation.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Nice to be here with all of you. I want to stress what Andy has said. Some of the most important things, the legal representation that you need to have, because that's going to be important. It's the only way to be able to fight back against the insiders who want to keep you out. The training, you need to be training your people how to be effective, because it's not enough to say, well, go out and become a precinct committee person. That's all fine and good. But how do you do it? There are specific rules in every single county that's different, but most of them will conform to the state rules of how to run for and get elected. You need to know what the election law says about all of these issues. So your people need to know that before they go out. They need to know how to approach door knocking. They need to know about how to do an effective sign. They need to know who to go to. That's where the list, the walk lists come in so handy. You need to know what your people in your precinct are thinking. So that means you got to do a lot of door knocking. No matter what they say, everybody says, oh no, door knocking is so passe. Oh, we got social media, we got texts and stuff like that. That's all fine and good. But those are secondary to door knocking, which has been proven time and time again that you need to train your people on how to effectively reach out to others and bring them over to your side. The good thing is that you can find this in a pool of patriot people. And I believe someone else mentioned having another great group of patriots to draw the talent from that you need for spreadsheets, for digital events, for event organization. People who are doing all of these things can come from a dedicated group of patriots, and that's what you need, because no one person can do it all by themselves. Basically, what Andy has just said are the basic steps. We do have I think Andy has put up on the Right for Bucks some of the training that's available that I do, but I also do personalized training depending on what people need. And the training has to be on an ongoing basis. It's not enough to train people at one, because I'm telling you, you can give the same training over and over, but people will take away different things from the training, and not necessarily all of them will take away all that they need to know and all they need to do. So we do training on a rolling basis so that people will, sometime during that training, a second training, a third training, some light bulb goes off and they say, oh, wow, yeah, I missed that part. Go over that again. But this is all helpful, and you need to be constantly training them on what they need to know, because the rules in your state will change over time. I've been at this precinct strategy since 2010 when I first ran for committee person, and that's how I got to know Dan at that time, because he was trying to implement precinct strategy. We've been at it in the trenches for all this, but you need to know also what to avoid and the traps that the GOP people and the rhinos, let's say, and the country club Republicans will all set for you. Because I keep trying to tell people, not because somebody comes to you and is friendly and is smiles and he takes photographs with you, that is not your friend. It's okay to be friendly with candidates, but you don't want to be their friend, simply because the moment they're doing something bad, that's when they're going to ask for your friendship to be repaid. So all politics is local, and we start at the local level. So that's why we have to train them at the local level to go in and to look for the pitfalls that can discourage a lot of people. So for example, what Robin says, you got to stay in the game in order to win the game, because they're going to just sit there and wait you out and hope you go away and shut up. So don't let that get you, but a great patriot group like the one Andy has assembled in Bucks County is the reason why we are having so much success with the lawsuits, with attacking the establishment creatures who are trying to pull us back down. Did I forget anything, Andy?
No, I think that's it, Donna. Anybody who's curious, you can just poke around on our website at rightforbucks.com. You can see the resources tab, the things that we've posted up there, the GOP bylaws web page, the calendar, et cetera, et cetera. We've got a mission statement on there, so feel free to steal it and use it for yourself. And if we can help in any way, let us know.
Yes, feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much. And anybody that wants to see this again, go to Stern American Rumble. It'll be posted as soon as we're finished, and you can scroll through it and see anybody. We'll get clips out also, and we'll make sure everybody sees it. So our last group is probably one of the most important. I've worked with them for the last 3 or 4 years. Steve Gillen, Sue Hansen, and Patrick Weiner from Projects Civica in New York. I don't know if the whole trio will come down, but come on up. Steve is one of the guys in charge that I've worked with for a long time.
Is that Steve or me that you wanted to call up?
Whoever wants to speak, you guys are representing. Steve.
Okay. Patrick, or either one. All right, Sue's going to go, and then I'll follow Sue if that's okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Sue Hansen, and I'm in Suffolk County, New York. And last year, I petitioned to become a committee member. And subsequently, I developed a website to document the procedure and to gather some information related to New York State and the counties that could help others that wanted to follow suit. So the website I developed is precinctstrategy.us, and thank you, Dan Schultz, for giving me that inspiration. And the information that's here, even though you may be in another state, the process is basically the same, but the details can vary. They can vary from state to state and also from county to county. But everything that I'm going to discuss is on this website. The first link I'm going to take you to is this action link, action, action, action. And we'll start with phases 1 through 5. Now, these 5 phases, they don't have to be done sequentially. In fact, I'm only going to cover the first 3. But the overall approach here is for the individual to become familiar with the process and to start getting involved. So let's begin phase 1. Okay, phase 1 can be broken down into 3 basic steps. What you want to do is you want to verify your voter registration. You want to, and this is if you're in any state in the country, you want to verify the nomination method that's used, whether it's caucus or primary. And then the third step is to get in touch with your county Republican Party, the GOP. Now, your voter registration, it's good to verify that all the states have a voter registration lookup. You can enter basic information about yourself, and they will confirm that you're registered. And also, it will help you to identify the election district or precinct that you reside in. And that's going to be important because that's hopefully going to be the area that you're going to represent. And this is a link on the National Association of Secretaries of State. They let you pick from a drop down what state you live in, and then they bring you directly to that voter lookup page where you can verify your registration information. Okay, then we have what's known as the state nomination method. It's either going to be caucus or primary. Nominations can be done by if they're done by the primary method, that's when the voters get involved. If it's a caucus members, that's when existing members are involved. Most of the states throughout the country are primary, but there's a link here if you want to check it out. It identifies the handful of states that still use the caucus method. And then the third step in this phase 1 is your county GOP. You want to reach out to your local county Republican Party. You can look them up online, find their website. Usually they have a link where you can register and get involved. They'll also typically provide you with a phone number. And I would urge you to call them, tell them that you want to get more involved, and when's the next meeting that you can attend and participate in. Okay, so that's phase 1. Those are the basic steps to start with. We move on to phase 2, and that's becoming familiar. And in this phase, basically, you're getting a little bit more interactive, and you're doing some research. As Andy and Donna just explained, hopefully, you'll have a state leader that you can reach out to that can assist with this. But if you're on your own, you can begin the process by again, reaching out to your Republican Party, attend a meeting, get to meet some of the other committee members, and volunteer. Also, you can start to do some of the research. You're going to want to know, do you have 2 representatives already in your election district or your precinct? Every election district is supposed to have 2 representatives within each party. And maybe there's a vacancy, which would be all the more reason for you to get involved. Now, this information can typically be obtained from your county Board of Elections. Either they'll have it on their website, or if not, you can FOIL for that information. That's the Freedom of Information law, and they're required to provide you with that information. You also want to find out, how do you become a committee member? And again, that can mean going back to the Board of Elections website and finding out when is the petition cycle. Usually running for a committee member happens at a certain point in the year, or it may be biannual, where it's once every 2 years. So you have to know when that time is for your particular state and your particular county. You want to find out what the petition form looks like and how many signatures you're going to need. In New York State, it's 5% of active registered party voters within your election district. And this usually translates into maybe 5 to 30 signatures that you'll have to obtain. So this is just some examples of things that you want to be able to research and find. And again, you can usually get that information from the County Board of Elections. It's also nice to try to find a map of your election district. And I found an interesting website, and there's a link here. And a fellow patriot developed this. It's a work in process. It's called precinctmaps.net. And he's got a drop down, and you can look for your state and you can look for your county. And just by a simple click, he zooms in and shows you the county, and the boundary lines indicate the various election districts. Okay, the third phase is the petition itself. Okay, there'll come a point in time when the petition cycle begins. It usually lasts about a month that you have to gather information, and you want to again, know how many signatures you need to collect. It's very helpful if you could prepare a script ahead of time. This way, when you knock on somebody's door, that you can introduce yourself properly and explain that you're a neighbor, you live in the same election district, and you'd like to represent your district within the county Republican Party. And hopefully they'll sign. And it's also good to have a handout if you can put one together. This is the handout that I used. And it's just a one-page document that includes some basic information about what committee membership is, because many people don't even know about this process, which is a big problem. So that's very helpful information to have. Oops. And there we have, that's the America sweatshirt that Steve Stern has on his website, the flag shirt website. And that's pretty much all that I have to share for today. Again, this information that I've shared is on precinctstrategy.us. Oh, one last thing. Once you've submitted your petition, be sure to follow up with the Board of Elections. Make sure that they have processed it. They're supposed to process it within 2 days and get back to you. You can call them. You can see if anybody's had any objections, or if there are other candidates that have also submitted petitions. And if there are 2 or less petitioners for a particular election district or precinct and they're valid, then you would automatically become a committee member as uncontested. So that's essentially the process. Again, it can vary slightly from state to state, but this is the way that you take back your country. You do it by taking back your party. It's not a spectator sport. You have to get directly involved. So good luck.
Thank you. Great. Steve, you want to get on, or Patrick?
Patrick, let Patrick go first.
Okay. All right. Real quick, I know we're running out of time, but that was a good presentation. The only thing I wanted to say was the very first thing you need to do is just start at the beginning and volunteer. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can volunteer with a party. All the parties have web pages, and they always have a contact link on there. You put your name, your email, phone number, and some information. And if they get back to you, you're lucky. They have that with the county GOP and the town GOP here in Suffolk County. Another way to volunteer, though, is we volunteer for Project Civica. Project Civica is it's an organization that we have several different initiatives, a local coalition building initiative, data research, political strategy. Steve Gillen is in charge of that, trying to get candidates to run for state offices, civic education, precinct strategy. Those two are kind of linked together. And we have some legislative initiatives. When it comes to volunteering, though, precinct strategy and being a committeeman involves connecting with voters. Donna, on one of the previous people that spoke on here, talked about connecting with people right outside your front door. That's all this is. Social media is good for this broad span of people, but what an election district is, or a precinct in many of the states is what they call it, is connecting with voters in a precinct or an election district. These people are your neighbors, or they live right up the block from your house. What we're doing right now in New York State is we're petitioning for signatures until April 2nd. What I do is I take these walking lists that Sue was talking about. This is a walking list right here that I use in my election district. And I have demographic information, names, registered party, and address. And I go to people and I say, I'm petitioning for committee. So-and-so in Congressional District 1 is running for office, and we get signatures. What I also do, though, is I'll bring them information from Project Civica, like that flyer Sue was just talking about, like this. I'll hand them this palm card. It has our information on it. It has our website, which is projectcivica.org. And I'll tell them, join us on our Thursday night meetings at 7:30. We have one tonight. I also hand them a local venue Steve talked about, is the America First Warehouse. That's Joe the Box's place, that supports a lot of what we do. So in this way, these initiatives that Project Civica has allows us to connect with voters even when we're not petitioning for signatures, like you would do if you were petitioning for committee. A lot of people don't understand the committee process right up front. As that woman Donna was saying, you have to go through a couple iterations where people start to pick up the information. In this way, the very first process is connecting with the voters. If you have an initiative that's not necessarily connected to the precinct strategy, but connects with voters, that's the first process, because you start to build a rapport with voters in these election districts. Later on, when you go to petition for committee, to become a committee person, these people already know you. You've connected with them 3, 4, 5 times. And that's a valuable part of this. I know Steve has something to say, so I'm gonna kind of cap it off there, but that's the first process. Just volunteer. Go to projectcivica.org and fill out, the volunteer form. Join us on our Thursday evening calls at 7:30. They're statewide, and we go from there. And it's really that simple. We're not here as establishment Republicans to ignore you. We're here reaching out to people. So that's the difference. We have the background, we have the education. We've, made some strides as far as learning goes. We've hit some roadblocks and we've come through them. So that's what we're doing. So thanks for listening. And that's it.
Thanks. Steve, come on. You're one of the most popular guys in New York State, and unpopular guys on the.
Yes, I would say more unpopular with the establishment, that's for sure. However, both Patrick and Sue are doing a fabulous job for Project Civica, doing all this. Just a little side note, Sue went straight out and challenged the Suffolk County Republican Party with an Article 78 and went to court and took them because of the way that they ran their process. So, we at Project Civica look to do anything that we can, as far as Patrick explained it well. When we get people involved, and I know I get a chance to speak on the radio and things of that nature, and it's always part of my whole effort, is to tell people to get involved. That's how we have to do it in the best way that we could get people doing it is get them involved in maybe one component and then really push on the precinct strategy. Okay. So it's very important that we incorporate all these functions together. And, you know, again, Patrick's big on, we got to talk to the neighbors across the street, next door, down the block, get them to know us, know what we're trying to do. But if it all comes down to civic action, and everybody on here, you know, knows that completely. But the people that aren't familiar and the first time watching this, you have to get involved. There's no question. This is the only way that we're going to save the country. So I appreciate the time and, you know, Steve, and for giving this voice to everybody. And hopefully we'll keep moving forward.
Great. So let's recap, Velma, before I close and give a last thing. Velma, you want to say anything?
Well, I really just appreciate everybody coming together. You know, Andy Meehan had originally called me, and we were able to connect with you. And then I really appreciate your reaching out to folks who've been working with, you know, Dan Schultz for so long. And it just really gave an opportunity for everybody to connect with each other and learn from each other. And that's all we really want to do. So precinctprojectusa.org, when folks reach out and register on the website, what I do is I collect the information and then I forward it on to folks, the state leaders, and then folks take it from there. And I think what we want to do and follow up to this call, in addition to having the monthly calls on a national level, is we want to do the state breakout. So states like Ohio and New York and Pennsylvania, where there's already an organization, it's really easy. So we basically want to make sure that you're connecting with folks like Steve and Andy and Jonathan Broadbent. And then for folks in other states where there isn't a state level organization, we want to help folks get together. So like Joel Brazil was talking about his cohort with the Milwaukee County GOP, there's a lot of folks reaching out from Texas, a lot of folks in Florida. So, and everybody's collaborating together on guidance and materials so that we can kind of be on the same page and just grow membership together. So thank you so much.
Well, we also want to let everybody know that you just became the head of a company, CEO, maybe on the next one, or you want to tell everybody what that is, or you want to wait till the next one?
Oh, I really appreciate that, because this is actually, you know, Precinct Project USA, and what we're doing is really important to my predecessor, if you will. So as of St. Patrick's Day, a couple of days ago, I'm now president and CEO of Washington Marketing Group, and it's a grassroots driven company. It's a data company, but our 3.4 million donors have been contributing to the Republican Party for decades. And it's so important to our company to be able to be supportive at the local level and help at the municipal, county, state, national. For the 40 years of the company before me, we were predominantly focused on, you know, only on, you know, campaigns that the GOP wanted to do. And now we want to just help everybody, including, you know, the NRCC and the NRSC and the RGA endorsements. So this is just a great opportunity. And when folks like Joel and Chan and others talk about, you know, funding being a challenge, even just something simple like getting a ticket to go to a convention or the travel to go to a convention, $200 may not seem like a lot of money to some people, but it is to other folks. And things like that, if we can raise some funds and be supportive so that everybody can participate in the civil discourse, I think that's all we really want to do. So thank you so much.
So we'll recap everything. I just got a message from Hawaii. It says, we need national attention on the missing 19,000 votes and audit. We need Scott Nago to be replaced. So we see this happening. A lot of people didn't realize, but we just found out yesterday that the Texas primary was complete fraud in many cases. If you look at our election security meeting yesterday, the first gentleman that came on, if you go to Stern American Rumble, everything is there. As soon as we finish this call, it's live there. You can see it all the time. So we want to thank Dan Schultz. Dan Schultz, buy his book. Go to www.precinctstrategy.com. Again, please sign up, precinctprojectusa.org. Very important, because that's the way we get names, numbers, so we can email you for the next time we have it. Go to Stern American Rumble to see any of these things continuously. I spend probably in a week 30 hours on the phone with people all over the country, from General Flynn to Mike Lindell, to Ticton, to Corsi, trying to get information out to everybody as as we can. We also don't want to, Tina Peters, every time we talk about her, and Governor Polis, we're hoping that she is let out of jail. It's the most ridiculous thing. As everybody knows, 80% of the people don't even know who Tina Peters is. That's terrible. ProtectTheVote.com. We need poll watchers and poll workers. Very important. We have an election coming up soon. Again, anybody that wants to email me, stern1054@gmail.com. I respond to everybody. Go to flagshirt.com. Believe it or not, I don't know the company, most of the company. I gave it over to my son so I could do this. We have 8 grandchildren. We want to make sure what's going on. Now, as far as this is a precinct project thing, but I got to tell you, election security, we are finding more fraud than ever before. If you think there was fraud before, there's more fraud now. We got the machines. We got to get rid of machines. We got to get one-day voting, no illegal aliens. Can you imagine all these things that happen for the Democrats? If the Democrats didn't have all this stuff, we would wipe the heck out of them. And we need to fight more. The SAVE Act, everybody's got to call their senators. Come on. I mean, it takes 2 minutes. Call your senator, tell them to pass this act. Call the Democrats. A lot of people didn't realize, why are we calling the Republicans? We know the Republicans are going to vote for it. How about if we call the Democrats and tell them to vote for this act so that no illegal aliens can vote? This is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen in my life. Great presentations, everybody. Thank everybody for coming on. We'll have another one, I guess, in a month. And if anybody would like to speak on it, please get a hold of Velma, myself. This is a great thing to get people out there to communicate. Anybody that would like to get on any of our podcasters, let me know, and I will be glad to put their message to them, to all our podcasters. Getting the message out through these podcasts is very important. One of the things that I've asked General Flynn to do, contact President Trump and ask him for 2 things. One, to get on podcasters rather than Fox and Newsmax, because the people that are watching Fox and Newsmax are not the people we got to get to. And 2, to get a couple of people in the administration to listen to the grassroots. So anybody that has suggestions from today, please email me or email Velma. Put your name up there. Very important. Thank you all for coming on today, and have a good weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
You got it.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Action.